Welcome back, guys. We have our second episode today. We are going all out back attack. So I had a few people request this one. Back is probably one of my stronger muscle groups. So today I want to take you guys on the approach that I take to get the most from my back training. So we'll go through a lot of different things today. I want to still keep it super educational so you guys have some really good takeaway tips that you can apply for your own training. I want to try to keep the talking down a little bit more this time so we could just make this video a little bit shorter. But to start with today, I want to just emphasize the point of being actually able to fully contract your lat and feel your lat work. Because what I find with a lot of individuals is with their back training, they might not be able to really generate a good mind-muscle connection, or they just can't feel their back working through certain movements. So first and foremost today, I want to start with a lat pull through. Now, I typically don't normally do these because I find I can get a pretty good connection with my lat from the get-go. But for those of you out there that do struggle to feel their lats, this can be a great tool to use prior to your big back attack workout to make sure that you can really engage your lats when it comes time to the heavier pull down movement second. So firstly, to get the lat into its fully shortened position, what I want you to think about doing is keeping your arm in nice and close to your torso and really pulling down nice and tight. So keeping that arm in close is what we call adduction. So we want to adduct and then think about pulling your shoulder blade down and back. So we want to pull through, keep that arm in close and really pull the shoulder blade down and back. So depress that scapula. If you still struggle to feel your lat, you may find a little side crunch over into that lat and put your hand there. You should be able to feel it be really tight. So the reason we're going to start with these first today is we're going to mimic that motion of keeping the arms in nice and close to the torso, almost like you're trying to brush and chafe your upper arm against your ribs as you drive back, while simultaneously thinking about pulling those shoulder blades down and back. So we'll start off pretty cruisy here, 3 sets, 12 to 15 reps. When we talk about intensity on this one, we really are after that really good mind-muscle connection, putting plenty of blood into that working muscle. We're not trying to do the stack or anything like that. I would rather you prioritize your form on this one and then save the heavier and harder stuff for our big pull down movements and our big rows to follow. I really like this attachment. I find that I can just extend my arms back past my torso a little bit more, but you could use something like a bar or even an easy curl bar on this one. It's a bit of a personal preference thing here. So all I'm thinking about doing, driving arms through and back. As I extend my arms forward and get that stretch, I will drop my chest slightly to the ground just to stretch the lats a little more. Then we drive back and through. So we stretch, drive back, through. So 3 sets here, 12 to 15 reps. We're not going super light, but also I'm not trying to break any records with this one. It's more so about establishing that connection, getting some blood in the lat, and then you'll find your pull down movements to be that little bit more effective. So as I'm pulling through and back in that movement, I think about pushing my sternum up and through. It's pretty common with something like this. As people start to fatigue, they'll want to hunch through and their upper traps will start to engage. And really when those upper traps engage and the shoulder blades start to roll forward, we lose tension off the lat. So whenever you're doing your lat work, try and imagine pulling your shoulder blades down and back, so depressing the scapula. So 2 more sets here, again, 12, 15 reps, then we'll get into the big stuff. Okay, first big exercise up next. We're gonna go a wide grip plate loaded pull down. Now, if your gym doesn't have this machine, you could do a wide grip cable pull down. It's going to be very, very similar. Now, the main things we want to focus on when we're doing a pull down, whether it's wide grip, whether it's neutral grip, close grip, especially when we're trying to emphasize the lats, is really try and keep the elbows in front of the torso. So as we drive down and through, like I was describing before, that's that adduction of the arm, so bring the elbow in. So even try that now, keep the elbows in tight and pull down, and you should really be able to feel your lats go tight. Where I see a lot of people make the mistake is they let their elbows go too wide, and then when we're pulling down, it's almost like it becomes a road for the upper back rather than driving those elbows down. So if you want to think about two things on your pull down, think sternum to roof, so keeping that chest up proud, and think drive elbows down towards the hip pockets whilst keeping in that humerus nice and tight. So try not to flare out too much. So we'll do a couple of warm-up sets here, and then we'll get into the big stuff and we'll get cracking. So trying to keep those elbows in front of the torso. I'm not trying to let them come back. Really making sure chest is up tall, elbows are in tight. You don't need to overthink it. Driving straight down. All right, so things are moving along pretty nicely. Admittedly, on back day, I don't feel like I have to do as many warm-up sets or even a mobility and warm-up routine beforehand. I normally do some dead hangs, so hanging from a chin-up bar to stretch the lats. I'll do a little bit of external rotation just to try and get the teres minor switched on, which can help you activate your lats a little bit more. Jordan Shallow, he taught me that one. He said, small hinges open big doors. So sometimes it's the smaller muscle groups that if we forget about, they can actually have a huge impact on how we can contract the bigger ones. So I'll stretch the lats out, I'll do some dead hangs, external rotations. I've done 2 warm-up sets on this one and we're pretty much ready to rock and roll for the big one. So got 150 kilos on there, hopefully get about 8 reps. We'll see how we go. I'll try and keep the form as good as possible. Then I'll have a rest and then we'll do a back off set on this one and see how we go. If you don't have a set of grips or straps, I strongly recommend them for back day. They just take the forearms and hands out of it so you can just focus on the back doing the work. Okay. So I lock my feet in a lot here. You'll see I'm actually going up on my tiptoes, which allows me to lock the hips in. Then we're straight down. I felt like I was shaking like an angry vibrator on those last couple. So what you can do at the end of a set on any overhead pull movement, when you can't get full range reps, you can go into some partials, which is just working through that lengthened range a little bit. I'll do those on my next set. So being first big set, I won't do too many overload methods. It'll just be a straight set, The next one, we'll back it down. I'll probably only take 5 kilos off the side. So it'll be back to the 140. So that was 9 reps then. This next set, hopefully about 12. And you'll see at the end of that set, I'll incorporate some of those lengthened partials. When you do those or try those for the first time, just be careful with them, especially as you are going into that full overhead position. If you do have a little bit dodgy shoulders, it may feel uncomfortable. So as you do extend, I still like to keep some awareness on where my shoulder blades are, and I don't just like to let them rise up completely. I still like to keep a little bit of tension through them. So thinking about creating a gap from the earlobe to the shoulder. So even though I'm lengthening, I've still got a little bit of control over those scaps rather than just letting them extend all the way up, especially if you've got a decent amount of weight on there. It can just be a little bit uncomfortable. Okay, so I took a little bit more off. I wasn't the best with counting. I was more of a PE student. So we got 3 20s and a 5 each side. So I actually dropped a 10 off each side. So hopefully get around 12 here, and then we'll go into some of those lengthened partials. Okay, partials. Done and dusted. First overhead pull down movement done. So we'll head into a row movement next. We'll do a chest supported T-bar row. Then we'll go into a single arm lat row. And we've got a really good combo to finish, which a little bit upper back and some rear delt as well. Okay, so just to add a bit of context on the structure of today's workout and most of my back workouts, I like to target the lat through 2 different styles of movement. So one will be an overhead pull down, which we've already done with the lat pull down machine. We went wide grip today. You could do, again, cable pull down, whether it's wide grip, neutral grip, close grip, something where the arms are going from overhead, driving down, getting those elbows, aiming them towards the hip pockets. The second lat movement I'll do is normally some sort of a lat row movement. So we'll do that next, but this one here, we're gonna target more the upper back region. So chest supported T-bar row, really good piece. If your gym doesn't have a piece like this, you could literally set up an incline bench and do the same sort of movement with dumbbells. So I actually do those ones at home all the time. I really like them. Now, you've got 2 different grips here. You've got an overhand wide grip and you've got your neutral grip. Now, because I'm doing an overhand wide grip row later in the workout, I'm not gonna do an overhand grip here. And I think that's really important when you're programming your own back day, is you don't wanna have redundant movements, which are basically the same. So let's just say if I did a wide grip cable pull down, I'm also not gonna do a wide grip plate loaded pull down. There's just a lot of carryover. So really you wanna get the most you can from the least. So you don't need to do, 7, 8, 9 exercises. I'm doing 4 for back. So I'm gonna go a neutral grip on this one. There's not too much you can do wrong here. It's basically grip and rip. Because you're chest supported, you can't really swing your body. I just focus on keeping my chest on the pad and driving my elbows back as far behind my torso as I can. As long as you do those 2 things, you're gonna be pretty right. Time for the big working set here. Hopefully get about 10 to 12. Similar to the lat pull down. When you're on a piece like this and you can't get any more full range reps, you can extend that set a little bit further and focus on, some people call them a Kelso shrug, but basically you're just trying to keep going even with some partial range of motion. So even just by finishing off with those partial reps, you get a little bit more out of the mid-trap and rhomboid region. Now, another thing to consider when you're doing rows, as a general rule of thumb, the further out your elbows, the more upper back and rear deltoid you'll work. If you try and keep those elbows in nice and close to the torso, like we were discussing before with the lat, you will get a little more lat involved. Now, because I am doing a neutral grip here, I'm mainly doing this movement for the mid to upper back. Our next movement, you'll see the change in arm positioning when I go into a single arm lat row. So there's a little bit of an explanation on the differences with our arm angle. Okay. So you see those last few reps, rather than cutting that set short and just leaving it sort of 9 or 10, even those last, I think it was 3 or 4, they will help to contribute to that stimulus. So just when you think the set is over, you can normally get a few more, and on a machine like this, super safe to do so. Okay, second working set on this one. This piece, I like to do 2 working sets at my top weight, so keeping the same weight across both sets. I just find I get a lot from it. And as we go on to the next movement, I'll get those reps up a little higher anyway. So again, hopefully about 10 decent reps here, and then finishing off with about 5 or so of those partials. Normally I will drop set this one as well, so it's a big set. Okay. Oh, man. Upper back. Oh, toast. Great piece, this one. So we'll move on to a unilateral movement next. Single arm lat row. I'll take you through the differences in my body positioning and how I want to emphasize that lat a bit more. Okay, so our one-armed plate-loaded lat row. The main thing we want to do here, because I am trying to emphasize my lat, is really keeping that elbow in tight, the entire upper arm. You almost want to think about brushing by your side as you row back. So if you let that elbow flare out and abduct out more to the side, which is what we're going to do in our next row, you're going to shift that emphasis from the lat onto the upper back. So really, to make this lat dominant, think elbow in nice and tight. The other thing I find that helps a lot is, rather than just focusing on driving the elbow back behind the torso as far as you can, think more so about driving the elbow down. So I'm keeping it in tight and I'm almost trying to drive it down. So that's pulling my shoulder blade down and back, which can actually make you feel that lat a little bit more. So elbow in tight, shoulder blade down and back. You may also find slightly leaning into the working arm may help with your lat engagement a little bit too. So I go same leg forward as my rowing arm, which allows you to create a lot of stability and keep everything nice and locked in. Then with my opposing arm, I'll actually set a brace on my other side. So I've already done a warm-up set and a working set, which I forgot to record. So this is the second working set now. So waiting for about 10 to 12, then a drop set. So I'm keeping that in nice and tight, stretch forward. As I stretch forward, I'm thinking about the shoulder blade protracting around the rib cage. So reaching forward, I'm not letting my lower back arch at all round, but you may find your upper back has a little bit of rounding. That's okay. That's actually going to help you lengthen the lat. And then we drive back and through. One more. So you can use that opposing arm if you like. If you're really starting to struggle in those last few reps, you can use that opposing arm just to help you get a few more. Okay. Three. Partials. Man, that is a corker. So this one's ticked off. We've got one more movement for back. Really targeting that upper back and rear delt region. So I actually love to do this next one as a superset. We'll go a wide grip plate loaded row straight into a reverse pec deck. So if you don't have a reverse pec deck, you could do a bent over rear dumbbell fly, or you could do a cable rear delt fly. You got plenty of options, because sometimes doing a superset in a busy gym can be challenging. I'm pretty fortunate here, I can always get this superset going. So last one to go. Okay, final movement for back, and it is a superset. So what we're gonna do here is a wide grip plate loaded row, supersetted into the reverse pec deck. So we're really gonna overload the posterior deltoids, and with the rowing component, that upper back. So the main things here are keeping that chest on the pad and really focusing on driving those elbows as far behind the torso as you can. So with the lat row, we obviously want to keep things in nice and tight. Now we want to do the opposite. We want to keep those elbows up. I like to do this one standing rather than seated on the pad. We've already done a warm-up set, so To keep things pretty efficient today with the filming, I'm gonna do 3 rounds like this, but I'll just film 1. So we're trying to fail basically on this first movement, 12 to 15 reps, and then I'm trying to match that on the reverse pec deck. So from here, chest is tall, driving those elbows back. Straight into reverse pec deck. So 3 rounds of that superset done with these reverse pec deck. I think one of the best things you can focus on is think about driving your fists to either side of the room, not necessarily driving them back, because what I'll see a lot of people do is if they try and drive back, they end up getting a lot of scapular retraction. You see the rhomboids and mid-back taking a lot of the work, but to really isolate those rear delts, I almost slightly protract my shoulders forward and just think about drawing a semicircle out and around as I take those fists to either side of the room. So give that a go next time. So we've got 2 shoulder movements now to finish. We're doing a lying cuff raise for the medial delt, and then this new one I've been experimenting with, which is sort of like a front raise, but I do get a little bit of side in there as well. So the reason being for doing some shoulders at the end of back day is I've had 3 shoulder surgeries now, so I have to be pretty careful with how I train my delts, and I find after doing back work, it feels so much better for me. It's like everything's just in a better position. All the posterior rotator cuff muscles are activated, and I just find I get less impingement and an even better shoulder contraction. So if you've got niggly shoulder issues, maybe try doing some side raises at the end of your next back day and see if it feels better, see if it feels worse. I think it's really important on this journey is to experiment, and you know, there's so much information out there. We're overloaded with information. It's really important to go away and apply it, try it, experiment, fail often, but fail forward. So every time you find something doesn't work, you learn from it. You take that feedback and you use it to make a better decision next time. Just keep trying. The main thing in life is you got to keep trying. If you're staying stagnant, you're actually moving backwards because everyone else is moving forward. So try. It's all about experimentation and finding what works best for you. So this next one is the new one I mentioned. I had to change my order slightly. I couldn't get both sides of the cable crossover for the cuff raise, so we'll do that next. But this one is it's like a modified front raise. So we start with a straight bar from the bottom of the cable attachment. I like to keep a slight elbow bend, so I'm not completely locked out. And what we want to focus on here is driving up and back. Now I let the thumbs go just past the hairline, which depending on how your hairline is looking might be further back for some than others, but essentially from this position backwards, we don't get a great deal of tension based on the angle of the cable. So really from the crutch, we're coming up just past the hairline. I'll take you through a set now so you can see. I definitely prefer these in the higher rep range, 12 to 15. Even as a finisher, if you want to do a 15 plus rep set, good luck to you. But from here, shoulder blades are down and back. I'm thinking heavy pelvis into the chair, raise up just above that hairline, nice and controlled down. So nothing is jerky here. It's all nice and controlled, driving up and through. Now these are only my second week doing them, so I'm still getting used to the weight to pick, getting that form dialed in and making sure we don't use too much momentum here. So I'm really keeping things nice and slow to isolate those shoulders. And it doesn't take long for these to get bloody hard. I'll try to get about 3 or 4 here. This is where the fun starts. Two more. One more. Oh man. They are quickly becoming a new favorite of mine. So it's a lot of front delt, but you definitely get a little bit of side delt in there as well. It's almost like where that delt inserts into your humerus, that point right down low. Oh my goodness. Definitely give them a go. I'm not normally much of a front raiser, particularly because we get a lot of front delt activation through all our presses on chest day. So I don't do a great deal of isolated front delt work, but these feel absolutely awesome. So what I'll do, 3 all out rounds. We'll call that set 1. We'll do 2 more here. Then we'll finish off with those side delts. Okay, last movement for the day. We've done a couple of sets on here already, so I just want to film the final set and go all out with this one. So trying to hit failure around that 12 mark. Then what I'll do is I'll go into some partial reps, working the bottom range of motion. Then I like to do an isometric hold. So once we've done those 10 bottom partials, we'll hold the iso for 10 seconds. Then I'll try and do a little drop set. Now, the little drop set normally isn't hugely successful in terms of reps achieved, but even if you get 5 or 6 good ones, it's just the icing on the cake. So last set for the day, then we're done. We'll go through it, start to finish. So 12-ish full range, 10 partials, 10-second hold, drop set, wish me luck. So what you want to think about here, driving those fists out and up like you're trying to trace a big semicircle motion. Almost think like I was holding a couple of textures and I'm drawing a big circle out and up. Nothing's jerky here, I'm not using any momentum. From that bottom position, out, up. I get a little hold at the top. Meet in the center. 10 partials. Okay, big ISO. 10 seconds. 9, 8. Oh. 5, 4, 8. Drop set. So I only took off 1.25 kilos, so these may be pretty ugly. Okay. Oh, okay. 1, 2, 3. Oh. Oh. 9. Hold. And just try and raise up as high as you can. Just keep trying, keep fighting, raise high. 5. Game, set, match. Really productive session. That took me about an hour and 20 minutes. So 4 big ones on back. We did do that activator movement first, so technically 5. Then we had 3 on shoulders, including the rear delt. So done and dusted. I think it's always a good sign when you've cooked the shoulders. I call it the self-hug. It's how quickly you put the weight down to going into that position, but they are on fire. So thank you again for joining me for another workout. Let me know below what you want to see next. We'll hopefully get a push day session done, chest, and we'll do some tricep. And I'll also do a little bit of arm farm out in the man cave at home. So we'll do a full arm session out there as well. But any questions you've got, list them below, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.